Members of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, will you please be upstanding for His Worshipful, the Mayor of Chorley, Councillor Alistair Morwood. Members of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Yes. Please be seated. Excuse me, I'm dripping. I'll apologise straight away. I have a cold, so if I keep using the tissues, there's a very good reason. Excuse me. Thank you everyone for attending the meeting this evening. My name is Councillor Alistair Morwood and I am the Mayor. Before we start the usual proceedings, I'm sure you've all been extremely saddened to learn of the death of the former Mayor and Councillor Mel Coombs. He was Mayor in 1996-97. So I'd like you to stand and join me for a minute's silence, please. Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you for that. Group leaders may wish to say a few words. Councillor Bradley, would you like to say something?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We seem to be doing this very often again, all of a sudden. But yes, obviously very saddened to hear of the passing of Mel Coombs, who was a councillor for many years on this council. As it says in the papers, Mel was Mayor in 1996-97. And just as I started becoming involved in Chorley politics, Mr. Mayor, I never quite envisaged where I'd end up doing it, but Mel was a councillor at that time and was quite a sort of an elder and respected councillor at that time on the east side of Chorley, and I came across him at that time, and I thought he was, you know, quite old at that stage, you know, as a young man myself. I'm horrified to see it's 30 years ago, Mr. Mayor, that he was the mayor and in his, if you like, in his prime as a councillor. But Mel did a lot for the residents in his area. He worked closely with other people, I'm sure, on this council. I'm sure Councillor Adrian Lowe worked very closely with him and many others. But he was very much an ongoing presence, and he obviously, given that it was 30 years since he was the mayor, has lived to a ripe old age, and I'm sure he's missed by friends and family alike. So we think of him this evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Platt, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a tricky one, this, because unfortunately I never had the pleasure of meeting Councillor Coombs. I'm sure there are one or two still left around the table who did, who were probably far better than I am to speak. I know he represented the illustrious Chorley East Ward for quite a while, joined the council in 1974. I think he finished in 2002, having looked back through my paper copies of the yearbook when he stopped appearing. I also gather he was a champion for the pensioners. He was a chairman of the Pensioners Association, and he was involved with the Racial Equality Forum. He was, wasn't he? Sorry, I'm sorry, Peter. Don't shake your head when I'm speaking. But we'd just like to add our group's sympathy and pass it on to the family, if you would, please. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to say? Councillor G.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the pleasure of knowing him when he was a council here. I'd just like to say one of the things that stick in my mind was when he was mayor, he for some unknown reason, he had a committee to see how we could make money. And fortunately, I was on that committee, and I remember him calling me in once, and he spent an hour asking me to try non-alcoholic wines, to give my opinion on non-alcoholic wines. Why he asked me to drink non-alcoholic wine, I never know, but that's a fond memory of having non-alcoholic wines with him. So thank you.
Councillor G. And you've never drunk any since. Thank you. So back to the normal business, as it were. Members of the public are welcome to observe the proceedings on YouTube, and due to regulations, only those members physically present are able to vote. When you're participating, please speak towards the microphone so that everyone can hear you. Please do not obstruct your mouth to ensure that anyone lip reading can do so. And if anyone is having issues, please let Democratic Services know. So some of the usual housekeeping. We're not expecting a fire drill, so if the alarm does sound, please exit the way that you came in. Please ensure that any mobile phones are switched off or to silent. And if the technology fails, I will adjourn the meeting to try and resolve any issues. Thank you. So we begin with apologies. We have quite a list. Councillors Beaver, Brown, Councillor Lynch, Councillor McGovern, Councillor Murray, who I believe is on Teams, and Councillor Brown is on Teams, beg your pardon, Councillor Singh, Councillor Top, and Councillor Whiffin. Thank you. Item 1, declaration of any interests. Members are reminded of their responsibility to declare any pecuniary interest in respect of matters contained in this agenda. And before I ask for any declarations, can I please note that dispensation has been agreed by the Head of Legal and the Deputy Monitoring Officer in relation to item 6, LGR, and has been circulated to all members. Therefore, all members can continue to remain in the room during that item to debate and vote on that matter. So are there any declarations of interest? No, thank you. Item 2, minutes, pages 3 to 8. First of all, this item is for decision. Are there any issues to raise on the accuracy of the minutes? No, excellent. Councillor Bradley, can you please present the minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I note the tissues on your desk, and I hope they're not for Scotland's result later this evening, when we see what happens later on. Yes, can I take tears of joy? Is that what we're expecting? Let's hope so, Mr. Mayor. So can I propose that the minutes of the last meeting held on the 23rd of September are taken as a true and correct record? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Seconded, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. We take a vote on that. Those for? Against? Abstentions? Thank you. Item 3, mayoral announcements, but I'll stand for that. In my usual manner, I'm sure you're getting used to it now, I'll just spend a few minutes just going over what I've been up to this last few weeks since the last meeting. It's been quite a busy time, as you can imagine, for one way or another. I've been to many events. I will not go through them all. They're all equally important, large and small. Inspire Youth Zone Awards night was absolutely amazing. Lots of amazing young people. Art and Joy exhibitions at Hollinshead Centre. Again, some very interesting art. And of course, I appreciated it all. I had to have a few things explained to me, but I did enjoy it. We enjoyed the fireworks at Astley, the best show, free show in Lancashire, never mind Chorley. I'm amazed the number of people that come from far and wide, many thousands. It was quite amazing. And the actual event itself in the park was tremendous. Lots of compliments. Vast majority of Facebook were compliments. There's always one or two, but the vast majority, I was stopped many times. People just can't believe it's such a terrific event, a free event put on by the council. Jingle All the Way was another memorable event. How can you not like 1,963 Santas walking 15 miles up to the Pike? Quite amazing, and I know quite a number of members were involved in that, and they've all recovered. Lots of lubrication on the way back, I'm sure, but that was quite amazing. There's some fantastic pictures there. Neil Haywood deserves credit for all that work, and all the others who were involved. It was marvellous. Of course, at this time of the year, I've been to quite a number of remembrance events, remembrance concerts, remembrance services, and so on, all beginning in Manchester, the Thursday before Remembrance Sunday, where I was invited along with other dignitaries from the Northwest and Greater Manchester for their service underneath Concorde at Manchester Airport. I didn't even know they had a Concorde at Manchester Airport, but there it was, looking absolutely amazing. It still looks like it could take off now. It's something in the future. It's quite an amazing plane. Quite an emotional event. All these events are quite emotional. They're enjoyable. They're sad. They laugh. It's been a real mix of emotions over these few days. And of course now it's officially Christmas. The lights were set off. The foam was set up, more foam than I've ever seen. Every photographer in the world that was visually polishing their electric cameras and saying a few words of how pleasant this is to have all this foam on our lenses. It was terrific. I really enjoyed it. And Richard Cole was just an amazing guy, really quite normal for some of these. And I have to admit, at least I did know the gentleman who was setting off the lights. I did. I knew who he was, what he did, and so on. It's not always been the case. But I did remind the mayoress when she talked about it, it's usually a boy band that I don't know. I said, well, he used to be in a boy band once upon a time. Maybe they weren't called boy bands then, but it was very good. And finally, one of the two really major fundraising events was Chorley Got Soul on the other night, a Saturday night. Just an amazing instant. The people there are just amazing, every one of them, all living there through their youth and reminding how they used to do all this, that, and the other when they were younger. And an amazing amount of money was raised for my charity. So I thank them all, but especially the former councillor, Margaret Lees, who does an amazing job. It's her 11th year of doing this. She started off on the first one with about 120 people, and she thought it'd never take off. And here she is still doing it 11 years later. So I thank former councillor Margaret Lees for that very much. But then, so what have we got coming in the future? They'll be starting to look at the watch soon in a minute. The mayoral Christmas concert. That's happening on Tuesday the 16th of December. Tickets are on sale for the charity concert. It's taking place in the Lancastrian, Tuesday the 16th, as I say. The event will include performances from the Guild Singers, Secret Location Theatre Company, which are a group from Ebb and Flow, who you may know, and the Red Admiral Brass Band. Arrival is from 6:30. The event will start at 7. Tickets are £10, including tea, coffee, mulled wine, mince pies, and great entertainment. There will also be a cash raffle, and all proceeds will go to my mayoral charities. Tickets available from the Mayor's Secretary, Paula. And the event of the year. You'll be glad it's been announced now. Councillor Bradley is getting his full Highland dress ready as we speak. The Mayor's Charity Burns Night and Cayley, Friday the 23rd of January. Tickets can now be reserved for the charity Burns Night and Cayley, taking place again in the Lancastrian on Friday the 23rd. A very traditional, you've been to some of my Burns Night, this will be more than you've ever could believe. It's a traditional Burns Night supper. It will include a 3-course meal with complimentary tots of whiskey and wine. There will be a piper, with Scottish Cayley afterwards, dancing, special prize draw, the auction, some special prizes coming up there. And arrival is from 6:15, starting at 7, which is slightly earlier than usual, but believe me, we have a lot to get through between 7 and midnight. Tickets are £45 and available again from the Mayor's Secretary, Paula. Thank you very much. So down to business. Public questions, item 4. There are no public questions, is that right? I need 2 people to move this chair. Thank you. So we move on to item 5, Corporate Strategy 2025-26, pages 9 to 46 on your agenda. This item is for decision. Councillor Wilson, can you please present this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm delighted to present the corporate strategy for 2025-26. And in doing so, the first thing I'd like to do, Mr. Mayor, is to say a thank you to officers who have helped collate and present the strategy. It takes a lot of doing. It takes a lot of input from a lot of departments through the council, and also a lot of working up of schemes that we as members believe that the residents want to see us deliver. But also, Mr. Mayor, not just a thank you to officers for this year, but a thank you to everyone, members and officers, for the achievements of the past 12 months. And we did set the strategy last year, which was ambitious. It was a number of projects in there which have stretched the council and stretched officers, as well as it has in terms of hitting our targets and our performance measures. And as the report says, Mr. Mayor, we have done a significant amount of work. And that's not just us saying that. That was reinforced when we had the peer review, which again not only reflected upon the work of the council and what we've achieved, but reflected again on individual officers and departments and councillors about the positivity that flows from the council, about the energy that flows from the council, and that translates into actual delivery of services, events, and actual help support for the community day in, day out. So again, it's a credit to the council and it's a credit to everyone who works here. But just to give you a flavour of that, Mr. Mayor, for the last 12 months, we did, as I say, have a strong performance, and we set out a number of schemes that we wanted to see delivered. So we have, in the past 12 months, secured the funding for the new unit for families who find themselves homeless, which is an important, very, very important area to concentrate on. We've also shown great flexibility and reacted quickly to issues that have arisen that weren't envisaged 12 months ago, such as the vast increase in the number of HMOs in our borough, and we initiated the action plan, and we passed the Article 4 notice, of course, only recently, and that again is ongoing. We've done a significant amount of work on our climate change strategy and our biodiversity net gain strategy. We've delivered 78 new bus shelters across the borough. I think there's only 4 to go, and council though reassures me that they will be done well in time, given we've got 2 years to do so. I'm sure we will deliver another 4 in 2 years. But the point being, Mr. Mayor, is that we are ahead of schedule in that project. That's the point. We've delivered it quick. And again, that's to be that's a great credit. We've also delivered a significant grants programme which has supported local businesses and local jobs and finding people's matching skills to jobs. And again, that's been successful. Different this time with the rural grants, the businesses rather in rural areas. And again, supporting those not just in the town centre, but where we had vacant units as well, where we needed to inject money in order to restart economic activity. We've also had the local plan pass, which probably been the biggest single issue that as a council we've had to deal with in the last few years. As Councillor Bradley always says, he quotes his predecessor as leader of the council saying it takes a lot longer than you want, it costs a lot more than you want, and basically it's a complete pain in the neck from start to finish. It has been, but we are there. That plan has now gone to the inspector, and we hope to get that through and get that process of examination done as quickly as we can. But it's a great stride for the council because it's not an easy thing to do. And no disrespect to partners who we've worked with, but when you are working with partners, again, everyone's got their own self-interest. It makes it harder, but it's important that we work together on that, and we did. We've also started to deliver our destination management plan, which again we presented to council earlier in the year, and already we're seeing the success of that. We're seeing the events that we're holding that you quite rightly referenced, Mr. Mayor. The numbers at those events have increased, significantly increased, and we hope to do so again. So again, part of that plan is to embody the whole essence of the offer of Chorley as a place to live, work and visit. And we can see that again significantly making strides forward. So we've also worked on the town centre, and we worked on the development and the preparation work, as it were, for our next stage of our town centre redevelopment. And we've also done a lot of work supporting families who have struggled with the cost of living. We've supported people in their own homes, and we've also worked on securing safer communities by working to tackle antisocial behaviour. So I think overall, Mr Mayor, the past 12 months have been one of great delivery, of real hard work on the ground. Nothing's ever perfect, there's always more you can do, but I think we should take and give credit to those who have worked on those schemes and made sure that we've had successful implementation of our plan for the past 12 months. So that neatly moves me along, Mr Mayor, to the corporate plan in front of us for 25-26. And what we'll see, and what members see in the plan, is a blend of a continuation of some of those projects, because those projects that we initiated are long-term. They are going to be delivered over a number of years. They're not just one-off hits. And there's also some new projects in there as well, which again finesses in with the work that we're currently doing, whether that's on communities or health or climate or supporting our local economy. And I think, Mr Mayor, I don't want to preempt what Councillor Bradley's going to discuss and present in the next item, but I think the biggest challenge for this year is that in the context of local government reform, which is going to be a huge change and a huge upheaval, with hopefully a better outcome at the end, but we've got to deal with the short and medium term. The biggest challenge with this plan will be staying focused, delivering those projects, staying on target, whereas at the same time, having that focus on the longer term and the complete change. So I would argue, Mr Mayor, and I think it will be the case, this will probably be one of the most difficult 12 months in terms of staying on track with everything while still handling that. I think it's necessary. And like I say, I don't want to preempt what Councillor Bradley's going to discuss. I think it is very necessary, but it also creates its own challenge. So this year will be difficult, but I think we're up to it. I think the council's up to it. I think our officers are more than up to it, and I'm confident that delivery will still be very, very strong. So just to go through a couple of the main themes, Mr Mayor, our main priorities remain the same. So we focus on housing, we're focusing on the green agenda, we're focusing on the economy, and we're focusing on healthy, safe communities. Under those headlines, we have a number of projects. As I say, some are continuation, some are new. So we do want to maximise the availability of affordable housing. It's a priority that's been very, very clear in the local community for a number of years. With the implementation of the local plan, that'll help us focus on that. Also working with the providers will help us focus on that, and also the ability to even consider delivering more of our own units will help us deliver on that agenda. We mentioned HMOs. That's early days in terms of our action plan. It's early days in terms of the numbers of applications we're receiving. So again, we need to make sure that action plan continues to roll out and continues to evolve and respond to the needs of the community, respond to the applications and how the housing market actually changes. And then we complete the work this year, Mr Mayor, this year in this corporate plan on Gillibrand Street on those homeless units for the families, which again is really important, and we're hoping that will be done early new year. We have done a lot of work on climate change, but we are now going to embark on refreshing the strategy, the climate change strategy, which doesn't just deal with the climate change, but deals with the biodiversity net gain as well. It's important we do that. It's important we keep the foot on the accelerator in terms of working to make sure we do everything we can to support climate change projects to help reduce carbon outputs. And in particular, another project that we've got this year is the decarbonisation of our own buildings, which again, it's important that we lead by example, and we will do that. We also prepare for the weekly food collections, which we know is a national programme. Again, that work has already started this year, but next year will be implementation stage, and we want that to go as smoothly as possible and make sure that we increase our recycling rates accordingly. In terms of on the economy, we look at the town centre and we look at the £20 million successful bid made to the government and the money that we've matched with that. That will see significant progress this year, Mr Mayor. We'll see a big uptick in the work there in the town centre and so forth. And again, I think that'll be a project which is exciting, not just in terms of town centre, but it's exciting because it brings more people to visit, it brings more people to spend time and spend money in Chorley and support our businesses, which is really, really important. And we also see there again a project about the woodlands. Members will recall that site was purchased last year, but now again this is the year for delivery. This is the year to bring forward the plans and we will see again significant strides made in bringing that on stream. And in the final area of health, safe communities, we have a number of projects, again, working with the VCFS network to support those community groups in their work. We're looking at school readiness and a project to deal with that, something that a number of councillors have raised, and it really, really, really is a massive societal change that people are really waking up to now, that the issue of the number of children going to school who aren't ready, and the knock-on effect that has, because the next project we're dealing with is NEETs, and those not in education, employment or training. And the reality is, it's very easy to trace NEETs back to those who at 4 or 5 weren't ready to go to school. So one project leads into another project, we deal with the issue, we work with our partners, and we try and bring about some real change. And then the final scheme under that section, of course, is local government reform. That is the huge challenge that we face. I think it's an exciting one, it's a massive opportunity. We've got to make it work. I think we will. I think we will be able to make it work. It's about making sure now we present the very best of cases, which again comes to the paper that's presented. But whatever that is, the job in the next 12 months in the corporate plan is to make sure that transition takes place and that we get where we need to be. As I say, it's a challenge as well, because it means there's a lot of work going into that while we're still putting massive pressure on our teams to deliver in our communities. But I'm confident we can do it. I'm confident the plan builds on what we've done in previous years. It also highlights new needs and new projects where we need to address our resources. And I am excited about the opportunities over the next 12 months and look forward to it being implemented. And therefore, I recommend the report to the Council, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Bradley, would you like to second?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd be delighted to second this strategy, because I think it's a good strategy for Chorley. Echo many of the things that Peter has said. He's been quite his deep coverage there on some of the items. But what this reflects is a lot of hard work. Peter recognises officers, but also members. Us as members are doing a heck of a lot of work as well. Everybody is working for Chorley. How do we know that? We see it in the results that we get. We see it in the schemes and the projects that we're developing and delivering. But even on Sunday at the Christmas light switch on that you mentioned earlier, and the Reverend Richard Coles said, "How great is Chorley?" Not like where I come from. I said, "Where do you come from?" Northampton. He said, "It's not doing Northampton down." He said, "But Chorley's great. I've been to the football the day before. I've been here, there, and everywhere, all the Chorley Borough," and it was recognised. It was recognised, as Peter said, by the peer review who came here and did it formally for a number of days, a week, earlier this year. It's recognised by our residents. So last week I went to do a talk for a group of business people up at Shaw Hill, and Councillor Snow was there with me as well. And the comments are amazing, impressive, really impressive. We live in Chorley, we don't even know half this stuff is going on. What is this council doing so much stuff? And we don't shout about it enough sometimes. So we really need to be focused on, we're delivering some great stuff. There's always more we can do. And some of the things in the strategy for the next year are there to focus on the things that we've not done brilliantly. Councillor Whittaker every meeting I go to, will remind me about the rural side of Chorley. Don't just focus on the town, do the rural stuff. We've done an awful lot of rural grants to help businesses in the rural areas, to help village centres, to spread that feeling that Chorley is a cohesive place where everybody can live and support and work together. And we are very fortunate. At times at the moment, politically, communities are very divided. A lot of what we do in Chorley brings our communities together. We're not an island, so we can't be excluded from what's happening in the country at the moment. But all we seem to hear is everybody's unhappy about something or other. But generally, and we see it in the feedback we get on the resident satisfaction reports, people in Chorley are generally happier than people elsewhere because of the work that we all do. And we have to keep doing that, Mr Mayor, because as Councillor Wilson mentioned, as we go into a time of uncertainty with local government reorganisation, and it is uncertain, as you'll hear in a minute, we are well set as Chorley to deliver more. Obviously, this year, we are not going to go out there and launch 50 new projects, because we need to have, the ability to deal and be flexible around local government reorganisation and drop on things quite quickly. But what we can be sure is, even if we do half of what we've done in previous years, we'll still be doing an awful lot more than most other councils in Lancashire and most other councils across the country. And as Peter quite rightly points out, we need to focus on keeping that delivery going, because local government reorganisation may go in any kind of direction. Nobody knows quite where it's all going. It's happening differently in different parts of the country. So we need to be focused on what Chorley needs to do and what our residents need to see delivered. And therefore, Mr Mayor, I am delighted to second this report, and I hope members can also pick out the things in their own areas that they can see in our strategy that is delivering for their residents. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bradley. Comments? Councillor Riggett?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I agree too, there's a lot to welcome in this council's approach, and there's just a couple of areas I too would like to comment on. I'm pleased to see personally the supporting business growth on page 14 being retained as a corporate priority, and in my view that's especially in light of the increased silence from Reform at Lancashire County Council on this matter, so I think that's something this council really does need to focus on. Again, looking at the HMO action plan, all members in both parties here today supported that action plan. I think it's really good to see that there, and it's important to keep that there front and centre to ensure that is delivered, and you know you have cross-party support to deliver that. I too wanted to mention the needs. I think, and I'm sure if Councillor Murray was here, she would hopefully be nodding at me with this. I think it's really important that we continue to focus and support our young people. There's a lot of talent in Chorley. We need to make sure we give them the best opportunities, give them the opportunity to thrive, and I suppose I'm in danger of, once again, potentially agreeing with Councillor Bradley and Wilson, which is something I'm trying to avoid, but seems to keep happening, especially on the record, but we can argue which one of us is right about that. Now, I was going to say as well, I think it's really important that we continue to not get distracted by transitional arrangements for LGR, that's members and officers, because we don't know when that's going to happen, in what shape, whether members will change or not, and that we've got to really keep focused and keep pushing through for the residents of Chorley, and that will come when it comes. And I think it's something that's incumbent on us all to aim for that. That was all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Councillor Southern?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Oh,
It's old age, you know.
smile at me there, Councillor Bradley. You missed us last time I wasn't here, that's what it is, isn't it? You're happy to see us back at me place, aren't you? That's what it is. Right, just to echo the points that Councillor Riggett's made in terms of there's a lot to welcome in this plan. A couple of points I'd like to highlight that I've had some input in the HMO action plan. As you remember, not this last council meeting before, I raised issues over this. I had some input to this. There's still work to do on it. It is still open. A lot of that is going to come down to delivery based on what's coming through from central government. So that, you know, we're not going to get an instant hit off that one there, but it's definitely going in the right direction because people are actually looking at it and they are commenting on it. In fact, they're actually saying the thing, Charlie's quite hard. Good. It's not hard enough for me. I'd like to see it harder. So that's one good point. Another thing, the climate change, which we've got to refresh on, and I'm pleased to see we've done something with that. And I think what that actually does, it reflects, A, the deliverability of that and the complex issues that come with that. You know, and I'm sure Councillor Clifford will be delighted that I won't be asking him, well, where's your carbon offset, Councillor Clifford? Every time we have a meeting on that. These are difficult things to achieve, and I think the transition that we are going for and the trajectory in which we're taking with that one is the right way, and it's important that we reflect the complexity that's involved with that. But on the whole, you know, I think it's a very good strategy, and I think, again, we need to focus on what we put in here in terms of what Chorley does. The LGR thing is a distraction, and it is going to come along, but I think ultimately what we've got in there, I think for the people of Chorley, I think works very well. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Hayden, sorry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to say thank you to everybody who was involved in the turnaround in the flower show as well this year. It's a much better event and it also made a profit, which is very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further? No. In that case, we will move to the vote. Recommendations as in paragraph 2. All those for? Thank you. Against? Abstentions? Thank you. That's carried. Item 6. Local Government Reorganisation Proposal, pages 47 to 282. This item is for decision. Councillor Bradley, can you present this item?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I bumped into Councillor Howarth in the toilets on the way in, and he said, it's a very long report that, Alistair, isn't it? And I said, yes, I read every page, Terry, of you. And being Terry, he said, yes, of course I have, Alistair, so yes, he has. So if I needed it back up, Terry's your man. We all attended, or many of us attended, the briefing by the Chief Executive around local government reorganisation, and I have it in my hands because I think it's a very good aid memoir to the main key points of where we are and why we are exactly where we are. And let's be honest, local government reorganisation around the country is being viewed in lots of different ways depending on which bit you're in and how you are shaped to the future. The government are doing local government reorganisation. They have pledged to get rid of two-tier council working by the end of this government. So not many years away now, 3-4 years away. So Lancashire has to accept that and embrace it enough to decide what it wants. We have the rules set out by the government, which has shifted over the period since they first announced them. So they talked about a population of 500,000, and then they seem to have rolled back to slightly smaller areas around between 300 and 500,000. But they have been very clear around the parameters of what they want to see. They want to see sustainable areas that can thrive and be efficient and are big enough to survive, but yet small enough to be in contact with their residents. They want to generate economic activity and growth. They want to see residents have control over their local area, their local environment, their housing, etc. Now, a lot of the things we just heard in the last report, Mr Mayor, Chorley has been doing for years. That's why 10 years ago we said Chorley should be a unitary council on its own, because we could see the benefits in that kind of system. Unfortunately, the government at the time didn't want to engage us with that. On that. We are now faced with the rules that the current government have put in place, and they are going to do it. So Lancashire has been asked the question, how do you want to constitute yourselves under these new arrangements? Now, being Lancashire, Mr Mayor, we haven't come up with one answer. We've come up with 5 answers. And trust me, there's a lot more out there. If you ask Holly, who sat in some of these meetings, and Chris and others, there could be 15 different answers from 15 different councils. But what we have done, Mr Mayor, is we have looked at what serves our residents here in Chorley best. We are Chorley councillors. We're not here to decide which bits of East Lancashire get on with which bits of East Lancashire, or which parts of the Foul Coast get on with which parts of the Foul Coast, or how Lancaster and Morecambe interact. We're here to say what is best for Chorley and Chorley residents. And therefore, Mr Mayor, of all the proposals, and I can hold up a little diagram that shows the different proposals around the maps, etc., and there are the 5 proposals, we believe we are best served by being with our colleague areas of South Ribble, who we do an awful lot of work with currently, and also West Lancs. Mainly for reasons of demographics. We are very similar in populations. We are a mix of urban towns, small urban towns generally, or medium-sized urban towns, and rural hinterland. We are different than Preston, we are different than Blackburn and the mill towns of Eastern Lancashire. We are very different from Blackpool, I hate to break it to you, but we are very different from Blackpool, and therefore we're also different from Lancaster as a university city, etc. We are looking to work with the people most like us, also geographically close to us. That makes sense. We do most of our economic activity with those 2 areas. South Ribble looks towards Preston, we look more towards Manchester, Wigan, Bolton corridor, and West Lancs looks more towards the Liverpool and Southport end. But within the 3 of us, there is a similarity that makes working together easy. Obviously, one of the proposals has us with Preston as well. Not a problem. We were all part of the Central Lancashire New Town back in the day. We work as Central Lancashire as well. But there again, Chorley residents would be possibly disadvantaged by being in a setup that involves a major city, because that major city would attract a lot of the attention, a lot of the money, and a lot of the demand for resources. So we believe, And luckily we have colleagues across the county that a 4 proposal is the best proposal. So ourselves, South Ribble and West Lancs, Lancaster, Ribble Valley and Preston agree as well. And there are probably 2 proposals that are outside the government's remit entirely, which is the 2 proposal that County Council are currently advocating, which is the whole north and south, huge areas, probably not in touch with residents enough. Some of the problems that county has currently is trying to fit a one-size-fits-all policy on a lot of policies. That really doesn't work sometimes because our Lancashire is just too big, and the 2 proposal probably perpetuates that. And the 5 proposal, which is too small, I sound like the 3 bears now, don't I, but too small because that is just about Burnley not wanting to be with Blackburn and keeping that individuality. Fine, that's their choice, but it doesn't really work in terms of that efficiency of government size. What probably works best are the 3 and 4 proposals. The 3 proposals are very large. The 3 proposals don't allow really for much sharing apart from at county level. So it's very hard in the 3 arrangement to share services because either 2 of you do it and 1 of you does it. You know, it doesn't work. A 4 is far better. It gives you that 2 and 2 option to split Lancashire on certain size of things, to do a full Lancashire approach on other stuff, but also then to get back into those smaller areas for that contact with the public. And it comes back to, if you read the business case in detail, there's a lot of stuff in there. And again, just for background for members, all the core detail around the business cases was agreed by everybody. So all 15 councils agreed that core information, which is probably 2/3 of that report. So we all agree where the different councils and the different parts of Lancashire sit in its GVA, its economic activity, on its demand for health and all the rest of it. So we agree on the facts. We agree what Lancashire's problems are and what Lancashire's strengths are. What we've got to then do is take that evidence base and decide on where the best proposal is to go forward. And we firmly believe that the 4 proposal does that. Having looked at the evidence, Mr. Mayor, not based on perhaps what we thought. Some of that report, some of the numbers are quite interesting. But the other part of it is we don't just need the South Lancashire area to work efficiently. It does work efficiently. You look at the GVA numbers in Lancashire. We are 3 of the top 5 or 6 economic areas in Lancashire. This area will work. It will spin away on its own. But what we really, really need to do is facilitate East Lancashire, particularly closing the gap with the rest of Lancashire. The Fylde Coast not being forgotten and being out of the cul-de-sac stuck into the Irish Sea. And also to attract the benefits and to work closer with our neighbours, particularly in Manchester and Liverpool, so we can benefit from that city region status. And we can only do that by having economic activity areas that, as the government have asked for, are efficient, sustainable and actually deliver. There are lots of other options that come into it about, why this and why that and why the other. And Chrissy's briefing notes, if you want to read them now, red, amber, green, rag rate, all those different elements. The one that comes out consistently on the scoring, generally for greens and ambers, is the 4 setup, because it works on the 2 levels. It's big enough to succeed and it's small enough to keep in contact with its residents. And therefore, Mr. Mayor, we can debate all the different points, and I'm happy to do that, around exactly how we go about doing it. But this is a first business case. This is a first bid proposal to the government for what Lancashire wants to see. I am more than happy to back the 4 proposal as a council, because I think that starts that dialogue with the government. There'll be a lot of clarity to come out in due course. We are watching very closely to what's happening elsewhere in the country, whether that's Surrey recently, or Devon, or Cheshire, which is also very interesting locally as a linkage to what the government is saying to other councils. We're trying to understand exactly what they want and they require. But what we also need to do is to keep trumpeting exactly what Chorley residents want to see, because that is our job. Our job is to advocate for our residents, and we can't therefore try and arrange everybody's deck chairs. Let's just sort out Chorley's deck chairs in the order that we want them. That means that we put our own residents at the front and centre. I'm delighted that South Ribble's cabinet have already put this through as a decision, and I know West Lancs cabinet are meeting quite late in the process towards the 28th of November. But we need to keep working with those guys to understand exactly what they want as well, because as Peter said earlier in about the strategy, working with partners is always more difficult. But as also Peter said earlier, this is a once-in-a-generational opportunity. The last reorganisation, I think Alan Whittaker mentioned it a while ago, was 1974. That is 50 years ago. The landscape our residents live in, the world that we all live in, is very different than it was 50 years ago. And we need to reorganise our councils into a way that's fit for now, fit for the 21st century, and can take us forward. So, Mr. Mayor, happy to take questions, happy to carry on advocating, but this is very much stage one on the ladder towards local government reorganisation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bradley. Members, any questions or comments? Okay.
Right next to you.
Councillor Platt.
It's not really a question.
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon.
Oh, am I?
I've not had the second now, have I? Sorry, Councillor
I
Wilson.
take that back.
Yes, I was so busy, you can't. Councillor Wilson, would you care to second?
I'll be delighted to second, Mr. Mayor. I was just waiting. You know, I thought he'll get there in the end. But yep, no.
In the end, we will.
In the end, we'll get there. We'll get there with local government reform in the end as well. But as Councillor Bradley said, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to change local government, and I think actually change it for the better. Despite it's very easy to get bogged down in what you think are problems, you have to also look at what you've got now and where it fails. And I might upset everyone who's either is a counter councillor or has been a counter councillor, but I will say it irrespective, including myself. I will say it, and that's why I can say it honestly. Is it doesn't matter which party is in control, it's not about party politics. The two-tier system has fundamental flaws, fundamental weaknesses, which day in, day out frustrate us as councillors and frustrate our residents. And that's just a fact. Single-tier government, I believe, is far better at delivery. And that's the big picture, and that's the prize on offer here. And I think we should keep our eyes firmly on that prize, because that's where you want to get to, not bogged down in minor detail of what if X, Y, and Z. What Councillor Bradley quite rightly then explained is what we think is the best way of making that work for our residents, given the criteria set by this government. And again, we need to keep our eyes on that, the criteria set by the government. Because if you start going off at tangents, which I believe some of these proposals actually do, i.e. the one from the county, which is a classic county council officer proposal, and is a pipe dream, and likewise the proposal of 5, which is equally unworkable. Those sensible people who have actually looked at what the criteria is and looked at how you might make it work come up with 3 or 4. And therefore, in our view, 4 is the model that works, as for the reasons Councillor Bradley explained. It's local, it's still in touch with communities, but it has the size to succeed. And the one thing that I am very confident of, Mr. Mayor, purely on the financial footing, if nothing else, is that we will actually be in a better position financially compared to other partners and compared to where we are at the minute, where a significant amount of 75% of our council tax goes to County Hall, it doesn't come back. As simple as that. To the 11% we keep, as I've just explained in the corporate plan, we deliver a hell of a lot. And if only we could do that with another 75% of that council tax in our pockets, I think we could make a far better job of it. Accepted that you've got some very, very serious responsibilities of very expensive services, we could still do it far better than the past 30 years I've been involved and known county council under all administrations, not a party political point. So I'm confident we can make it work. We need to keep our eyes on that. And I think the proposal forwarded for the model of 4 unitaries across Lancashire has that blend to drive forward economic efficiency, growth, and actually maintain our commitments and our connection with our local communities, and therefore happy to second that proposal, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. So a quick rewind. Councillor Platt, would you wish to speak?
Now, I'm really sorry to have just noticed this tonight, or if I'd have noticed it before I would have mentioned it, but our plan, which is the 4 on page 103, seems to have abolished Preston, which I don't know whether that was in your plan, but they appear in all the other plans, but they don't appear in that plan, and I think it's purely a mistake, because it should be in the west by the looks of the picture. And, you know, whether that's your plan, I don't know. No, it's purely fallen out of the list, that's all. And if I'd have noticed it before, I would have mentioned it outside of the meeting. Thanks. Yeah.
Page 103.
Three.
Yeah.
It appears in
doesn't say
102, but then it falls out in 103.
It doesn't, but that is, like we said, it's not our plan. So that's the alternative 4. Is that our typo? So yeah, we'll not do Blackpool a disservice. That is our typo, but Preston still exists.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's good to hear that this council still has positive relationships with Preston City Council. That is nice to hear. There's a lot I like and can support in this council's proposal, but I do have a few areas of concern, so it's now time for us to respectfully disagree a little bit, just to keep all things equal. I'm just concerned that the relative size of this council is just potentially a bit too small to have the influence we need to bring government and large-scale investors to the table. I do note the comments about a future mayoral role for Lancashire, but again, we would want to have the influence over that. For me, it's hard to overlook the proximity of Preston, which, depending where you live in Chorley, it's only a handful of miles away. I mean, perhaps it's because I spent so much time there over recent years, not so much this last few months, but that's the way things go. But objectively, from where I live in Buckshaw Parkway, it's like 12 minutes on the train. It seems really close, and to ignore that, I'm not entirely convinced. I do recognise it's very different from our rural areas, but also it has a lot of commercial and retail offerings, and I do wonder whether we would be better being part of that and having a joined-up approach rather than potentially competing with that. I also feel that potentially that slightly larger one would perhaps align more with Lancashire's post-16 education offer, and where young people from Chorley tend to move on and study. They do go beyond the boundaries of this new proposal, and also it aligns with opportunities at the University of Lancashire, which is based, again, just up the road in Preston. But that being said, you know, I was on a short sabbatical when this council came to its preferred approach, which is what Councillor Bradley has outlined today. And there was definitely cross-party agreement on that. That was our group position on that. So I think the time for me to really advocate for alternatives has kind of been and gone. But I did want to share a few concerns. I mean, personally, I remain to be convinced that reorganisation itself should be a priority for government or Lancashire at this point. And this is where perhaps we'll disagree with Councillor Wilson. I think what matters is the attitude and the willingness to work together more than structures and shape. And that's going to apply in any new council too, because you're going to have the constituents of 3 or 4 councils coming together, and they're going to have to decide to work together for a new area rather than just get embedded in their own areas where they've come from. So I think that is something that's hugely important, and we've got to press for. So despite my personal misgivings, I am prepared to support these proposals today because it's our group position. But if we're not going to be able to separate those proposals from a request to cancel elections, I can't support that, unfortunately, and that's how the paper is currently laid out. So that is down to how you want to move forward on the votes on these. And I'd also just like to thank Councillor Platt for his flexibility in allowing me to express my views on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Riggett. Any reply?
Do you want to come back on just a couple of points, really? Size, number one. So the population of the south area of the 4 will be 358,000. That's bigger than any authority in Manchester, Liverpool, apart from Manchester City Council and Liverpool City Council. That is a big authority in anybody's, and most of the London authorities as well. And they all seem to survive fairly all right, most of them. So it's all about size, it's about what you do with it as well, and that's always the case. I think also, in terms of the request to government about elections, let's be honest, we have taken an inordinate amount of time in Lancashire to get to this position, to have a dialogue with the government. The government has set the agenda in its injury report about the next steps, that after the end of November, January, the government will start consulting with all kinds of stakeholders across Lancashire, and they expect an announcement on the decision early summer. You have elections in May. There are 6 councils in Lancashire in May having elections, okay? As Councillor Platt said before this meeting, we will not lose control of Chorley if we lost every seat next summer. So we would carry on in some shape or form. We would carry on with an administration. It might not be me, because that would be a disaster. And therefore, if we lost every seat, somebody else would be doing this job. But Chorley could speak with a consistent voice, because the majority of our members would still be here. Unfortunately, look at the other 5 councils in Lancashire, they are in a more parlous state. And if you change the entire cast list a month before you are going to be having a conversation with government, that just doesn't make any kind of sense, because the people coming in would quite rightly say, whoa, I don't know anything about this, I didn't agree to any of this, why would I carry on? At that point, the whole government programme stands up. So not because of what we want to see happen, but because of what the government want to see happens, means that realistically, to have elections at that point in time would throw a huge spanner into the progress. My biggest concern is that progress, there are certain elements within Lancashire who do not want change and do not want any kind of progression on local government. They tend to be small interest groups in certain areas who are doing it for their own political ends. And I include the county council administration at the moment, because they are only one amongst 15, and they are quite a radical force, let's put it that way. Okay? Not particularly joined up, not particularly forward thinking, and not particularly aware of a lot of the issues that we're talking about. And I don't really see a plan from them about what they're going to do, apart from carry on enjoying the trappings of what they got last year. That's fine. As my group will tell you, I am the arch campaigner and political in elections. I love elections. It's a chance to do something. What we need to do, though, is be realistic that if we try and change a third of the people next year, or as many as that, you'll have a real problem with the whole process. The government will be foolish to do it. There is also the cost of the public purse. We're talking about up to £3 million across Lancashire to be spent on councillors who effectively will only be in that arrangement for 2 or 3 months. That seems an awful lot of money to spend, in my view, which could be better done. Perhaps keeping care homes open in Adlington, amongst other things. So why are we not doing that rather than worrying about elections? So there's a lot of games playing going on here. Back to what's best for Chorley residents. What's best for Chorley residents is Lancashire takes advantage of this opportunity and has a proper conversation. And that isn't about not having elections, it's about keeping the dialogue going, which is very hard if you're going to change the guest list.
Thank you, Councillor Badley. Councillor Sutton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Appreciate the point you've made there, Alistair, vis-a-vis elections. And I completely get what you're saying. I think members will agree, of all the councils, I think we've, in terms of groups, I think we've worked quite collegially at Chorley. And as you know, we've supported the proposals for doing the mergers with local government organisation. There's an argument to be said there at Chorley Council. I think we do a pretty good job, quite frankly. We don't particularly want to change it, but that is not within our gift. This is coming from London, as has already been said, and we've got to make a right effort of that one there. But just to counter what you've just said there, Alistair, what you said about, obviously, councils coming in, etc. There's also an argument to be said there for the people of Chorley having a say. And I'm all at the last elections there, last May, we took a good kicking, particularly our group. We lost a lot of good councillors from both parties. But what I would say is, I've never been frightened of giving the people, the residents, a say about what they feel about things. So I am, for the similar reason, I'm balking at the fact that we've got these two items together. I completely take on board what you're saying, Alistair, in terms of how it would work and going forwards. And in terms of how other councils get on with new other people coming in, I'm focusing more on the people of Chorley, because that's where we are based and we are Chorley councillors. Yeah, we represent the residents of Chorley and we're giving them what we think is best. And I just balk at the fact that we can't give them a say. They can't have a vote on that. And the other thing that obviously that concerns me with Chorley, and the thing that we always get thrown at us on the doorstep is, well, we don't get to vote in Chorley. Well, you do get to vote. It's a national thing. Well, we've not got to say. Well, you have actually. It's just, it so happens that Speaker Hoyle happens to be the MP for this area. That's why we don't. But you do actually get a say on that. But that's what you get on the doorstep. And I'm just a little bit concerned the fact that we will be seen to be not frit, but reticent to give the people a say. And that's just my take on it.
Thank you, Councillor Sutherland. I was particularly impressed by your representation of your average voter in Chorley. Any more questions? Councillor Alan Platt.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think if you actually Google Geordie Translator, you'll understand where it's coming from. Just a quickie, really. I think I found myself in exactly the same position as I was with the local plan, that it's not going to please everybody, but we've already said we're happy to go with the recommendations of the group opposite. Forgive me for allowing my group to have a free speech. It obviously doesn't work very well, but hey-ho, it is what it is. And I think it's a valid point that made. My heart says, yes, I want to support the local plan. But the fact that it's tied in with another decision, when it could just easily been like that, 2 votes, and we could deal with it. And I would request that happens.
Councillor Bradley.
Yeah, and for members' benefit, Councillor Platt said this at the start of the meeting, could we split these two up? And I understand the reasons for doing that, but then I also would make the point that the two things are intrinsically linked. And the reason is, and I just repeat for it, we don't want to cancel elections at any point in time. We don't want to not speak to our residents. I was out there doing videos to encourage Chorley residents at the last consultation that was done. Across all, I didn't particularly agree with that individual consultation because it wasn't what this council wanted to do. It was something that was agreed across the whole of Lancashire. So I was out there encouraging our residents to put their views forward about what they wanted to see. And to be fair, they probably did as much as most areas. A couple of areas went to town on very small scale kind of campaigns, but we generally played it straight and said, right, you know, put back properly and clearly what you think. There's 176 pages here to digest and read. A lot of the detail is not there. The government will take the detail that comes from Lancashire, and Lancashire could have come up with one proposal for one thing. It was never likely to happen, but Lancashire will be writing a single letter to the government. We've agreed to do that. There is no blood on the carpet. We're all going to write together to say, this is what Lancashire thinks, government, because you have left the funnel quite wide as to what could come forward. So what will go forward will be what all of Lancashire thinks. It will allow us to say what we think and have that conversation with our residents. It will also allow more disparate areas of Lancashire, and East Lancashire in particular, and Western Lancashire, to also get in that funnel. I think it behoves the government then to come back very quickly and say, right, we've got 4 or 5 bids that have come forward. Of those 4 or 5 bids, we like 2 or 3 or 1. We can't tie their hands. We don't know what they're going to come back with. And at that point, there's more detail from the government side, which they have been loath to give. And the reason I suspect they're loath to give it is because if it applies to Lancashire, it has to apply to everybody else as well. And they've got this going on across the country. And therefore, as part of the discussions that the civil service have been having with our chief execs, they said it would be helpful if you could indicate what you want to see about elections. Some councils came straight out. If you listen, Hindman and Blackburn this week on the news, we think the elections shouldn't be held. Okay? I haven't had that discussion with Hindman and Blackburn. It wasn't that joined up. They did that off their own bat. What we've done is not said we don't want elections or we do want elections. What we said is we think it would be a retrograde step to have elections because for the reasons I've just explained before. So I understand your concerns with linking the two things together, but I think the two things are inextricably linked because if we're going to go back to the government and be quite clear and honest, then we also have to be clear and honest about the impact of elections and the risk to us of that. But also, I think the government need to commit quite quickly to us so we can have a proper conversation with our residents around sensible proposals that fit their criteria with a bit more detail of exactly what you are thinking to do. Even the number of councillors that is in this report is a number we've had to come up with in a bit of a vacuum. Yeah, the Boundary Commission has said no more than 99 councillors in an area, but there is no hard and fast rules. A lot of the councillors in Lancashire want some greater certainty, greater clarification, but it is not forthcoming from government. So what we've got to do is have a bit of a leap of faith and say what we think is going to happen and then hope that the government then reciprocate that. That is certainly what we'll be pressing for, and I've already mentioned that to our MPs because the MPs will be very critical in this as well. So I understand your reticence. Unfortunately, I can't agree to a have your cake and eat it. I think it's let's get the cake and sort it out later.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? No. And that's, sorry, Councillor Southern, you want to come back?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, just to come back on that one, Alistair.
You have to
Again.
put it higher.
Well, I can't do it my right hand, can I?
Use your other
Haven't I? I've only just learned to touch the top of your bloody head, man, but there you go. Yeah, again, I take on board what you're saying, Alistair, and I see what, if, and it's a big if the government had given a firm timetable based on what propositions we put forward and came back to us and said, right, take on board what you're saying about elections, it does seem a little bit silly to go ahead with this, A, the cost of it, and B, the fact it throws you into turmoil. We will give you a tight time frame and window, at which time you can come back to us with a proposition of that one there. I would say, yeah, happy days, I can get that, because it simply doesn't make sense. But they're not doing that. And my only fear is that as things go on, LGR gets kicked down the road because something else has come up, budget, whatever. LGR gets pushed on the back burner, and then we're saying basically, well, there's going to be no elections in Lancashire, and people think they're going to be robbed of a vote. And that is my concern. It's not the fact that I want to spend money necessarily, Alistair, it's the fact that I simply think the people of Lancashire, particular on the back of it, should have a say. But I get it. If they came back with a timetable, I'd be for it.
Mr Mayor, through you. If you look at paragraph 35, it says quite clearly, on the basis of recommending to council, etc., it says, if the reorganisation does not proceed as planned, the elections should then go ahead as quickly as possible. That's the caveat we put on, which says, it's not that we don't want to have the elections, if all this stalls up in the new year because of whatever it is and government change, and we just lost a minister, we lost all the ministers, didn't we, in the department a few months ago for nothing to do with politics or this plan at all, that we would be back into an election cycle. So I think we've covered that point off. So like I said, I think we just have to get on and do it, Mr Mayor.
I'm going to move one more.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you very much for allowing this. I mean, it's as you've probably gathered from this, it's torn us asunder in a way, because of being conservatives, the last thing we want to do is be seen to be wasting money. But there is...
That was my concern.
you know, as I've always said, one man's austerity is another man's efficiency savings, and that goes back to 2010. But as I've said, we're in a very awkward situation with this at the moment. So I hope you'll understand what follows.
So I will move to the vote, which is as recommended on paragraphs 2 and 3, but I'm going to read them because probably this is one of the most important decisions we'll make for some time. So if you'll allow me to do that, the recommendation of paragraph 2, that council endorse the submission of the proposal for a 4-unit street in Lancashire, Chorley's council preferred model for local government reorganisation in Lancashire. And paragraph 3, that council agrees to requesting government postpone the borough elections scheduled for 2026. All those 4. Sorry?
Could we request a recorded vote on this? And there is a new rule where we have to have 5 good people to do it.
You don't have to stand if you just like to.
I think I've found them.
Put your hand up, and I will count. There is at least 5 people. Thank you. For clarification,
They don't need to be good people.
yes, 5 or more, will, minimum of 5, as many as you like.
Councillor Ainsworth. Councillor Amawi. Councillor Beach.
4.
Councillor Berry. Councillor Bradley. Councillor Clifford. Councillor Gordon France. Councillor Margaret France. Councillor Danny G. Councillor Gray. Councillor Green. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Hilton. Councillor Howarth. Councillor Hasina Khan. Councillor Samir Khan. Councillor Lees. Councillor Lowe. Councillor Molyneux. Councillor Morwood.
4.
Councillor Moss. Councillor Alan Platt. Councillor Deborah Platt. Councillor Riggett. Councillor Sherwood. Councillor Snow. Councillor Southern. Councillor Snape. Councillor Towers. Councillor Whittam. Councillor Whittaker. Councillor Wilkie. Councillor Williamson. And Councillor Wilson.
That's what happens when you wear a Gansey, Mr. Mayor. You nod off occasionally.
Thank you, members. That item is carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 7, questions asked under Council Procedure Rule 10. There are no questions have been received. So we move to item 8, to consider the notices of motion given in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 12, pages 285 to 288 in your follow-up pack. The first notice of motion is to be proposed by Councillor June Molyneux.
Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. You'll find the notice motion on page 285. I don't intend to read the whole thing for you, but Reform UK-led Council are currently undertaking a strategic review of adult social care. And as part of this review, there are 5 care homes across Lancashire that they propose to close, one of which is in Adlington they're looking at. They state that the long-term viability of these homes are in question. I would disagree with that, but anyway. But no doubt you'll have read that. But Chorley Council needs to urge LCC to keep Grove House open and ensure that that quality care is provided for those most in need. And towards that, the Council resolves to respond to the consultation exercise urging LCC to keep Grove House open, to write to the leader of Lancashire County Council urging the Council to pause the review and explore other options to secure the future of Grove House, and request that the leader of the County Council ensures that the final report, including up-to-date property condition services, are brought back to the Adult Services and Health Scrutiny Committee prior to any decision being taken by the Cabinet. Following the publication of the report, one of the things was that the Grove House was in such a dire state, which I thought was very strange, because knowing people in Adlington, if Grove House had been in the bad condition that they said, Peter, Kim and myself would know about it. People in Adlington don't keep quiet if something's not right. They tell you. So that's it. I'm visiting the home. I found it to be such a nice, comfortable, caring place. It has a lovely feel about it. It feels like a home. And those residents there, they're living there, it's their forever home. And at the moment, well, it needs a bit of cosmetic in some places, a bit of paint there, but nothing like it said in the reports. There's a waiting list for Grove House, an extensive waiting list. And when we were told that, yes, they were still taking admissions, they were still taking people in, people who desperately need that care, they were taking them in. A couple of days later, a member of staff tells us they've stopped accepting new patients, new residents. Deliberately running it down. Makes you think, doesn't it? We know there's a shortage of dementia care across the county. So where are these people going to go? There are people desperate to get in a place like Grove House where they'll be looked after, and there are the residents in Grove House that, as I say, 3/4 of the residents of Grove House are suffering from dementia. That is a fact. Where are they going to put them? Because there's not the places in Lancashire. Where are they going to go? These are questions that we're being asked. What's going to happen to them? Families are concerned. They chose Grove House for a reason for their relatives, because it's a caring, comfortable home with a good reputation, and it gives residents the care they need round the clock. It's local. They can call in whenever they need. There's no restrictions. The only thing they say is don't come at meal times, but they're welcome any time. So they're not frightened of people going into Grove House. They're quite open to seeing them. Residents love living there, and their families have peace of mind knowing that they are being cared for 24/7. That's the important thing. People in Adlington and the surrounding areas are upset, they're angry, and they're worried. Residents are worried what's going to happen. Families, where are they going to send me mum, my gran, my sister? What's going to happen to them? Staff are worried for their jobs. A lot of the people who work at Grove House live locally. It's the wrong thing to do. So all I can say is please, please support this notice of motion to give peace of mind, security to those families, those people in Adlington and the areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Mullen. You said with feeling. Councillor Samir Khan, I believe you are seconding this motion.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'm proud to second this motion. Grove House is more than just a care facility, it's a cornerstone of our community, providing essential support for some of our most vulnerable residents. A potential closure risks displacing those who rely on its specialist dementia care and adds pressure to an already stretched system. We must stand up for compassionate local care and urge Lancashire County Council to protect Grove House's future. It's a lifeline for families in Adlington and the wider Chorley South East and Heath Charnock area. A potential closure would uproot vulnerable residents. As one resident told me recently, Grove House isn't just a care home, it's part of our community. My mum has been there for 2 years and she'll treat, and the staff treat her like family. If it closes, I don't know where she'll go or how she'll cope. That's the human cost of this decision, and it's why we must urge Lancashire County Council to keep Grove House open. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions, comments? Councillor Hilton, Councillor Green, Councillor Snape, Councillor Towers. Right, in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is purely a vicious attack on some of the most vulnerable in society, and the Reform County Council should be deeply ashamed of their behaviour here. And I hope that residents think about things like this when they're cast their votes, whenever the next elections might be. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My mum spent her career caring for the elderly, working in care homes such as the one we're discussing here. And whenever residents are forced to move out and be moved into another care home, there's quite a high proportion of those die early because of the move. And as a result of this, people will die by being moved out of this home and the other homes in Lancashire. And I, for one, if I was in a position of voting for that, I could not have that on my conscience. People will die because of this, and I fully support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Snape.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just had a couple of comments to make. Obviously, I fully support the notice of motion. I just think it's also important to put into context the appalling way that this consultation has been carried out. As in my view, and in view of most of our residents, it's been nothing short of chaotic. We've seen timetables for closures published. We've seen the supposed cashable financial benefit for each building documented in the reports. I've asked for a condition survey and was told I could have it by the end of the week. At the beginning of the consultation, 4 weeks into the consultation, they finally appeared, only for us to discover that they were 5 years old. I was then reassured not to worry, Councillor Snape, that new reports were being done, but that they'd only be ready after the consultation had ended. What an absolute shambles. When this issue was discussed at the County Council's Health Scrutiny Committee recently, I questioned why the report stated that £857,000 of work was required to be done at Grove House, based on that old survey that actually said £260,000 was needed to be done, much of which, by the way, had already been carried out over the last 5 years. I was told that that difference, that £590,000 difference, was an estimate for a suitability report that still needs to be done. Yet again, I've asked for a breakdown and an options appraisal for that estimate, and again, no answer. The County Council's own market position statement states that rural areas of central Lancashire, as June has said, is lacking for dementia care provision and isn't keeping up with demand. So again, the staff have sadly been gagged by the County Council and told to sign pieces of paper that they won't discuss this matter with county councillors. Domestic assistants and catering assistants had to find out about this consultation second-hand when other people were told about it before them or they heard about it in the media. As has also been said, what's added further fuel to the fire, when we visited recently, we were told they were still taking new admissions. We were then told the week after, oh no, they've already stopped taking new admissions. I think the council officer actually said it would premeditate the end outcome if we stopped taking new admissions. Well, they already have done. And then I think just to finish, the support of Chorley Council means a great deal to the families, the residents, the brilliant staff and the wider community of our village. And everyone in Adlington knows somebody either in Grove House who has either been in Grove House or works there. And personally, I think they deserve honesty, transparency and respect. And this consultation has delivered none of those things. And I hope that we'll all support the motion. And thank you for putting it forward.
Thank you, Councillor Snape. Councillor Towers.
So this is a political choice, it's not a necessity, and to close at a care home, that is it's a decision being made there politically. And it boils down to ultimately what kind of society and also what services our residents need and society needs. Do they need services that provide empathy, they're caring and inclusive, or are they services and decisions that are being made that put profit over people? Now, I used to work for a trade union that covered care workers. I travelled and visited hundreds of care homes for Unison then, talking to care workers and listening also to the residents as well. And the key part of that was understanding the care that those care workers gave to the residents and the importance of that care, not only to the person they were caring for, but also to the loved ones, their families, and the local communities that they were embedded in. Now, Reform are starting to show their true colours here, and it's linked to that political choice. If you look at Farage, he's an investment banker, and his position on the NHS is one to move to an insurance-based healthcare system, which will undermine our NHS. Also, if you look at his position and voting record on things like workers' rights, extending maternity rights, paternity rights, there's a constant stream there of profit over people. So it's no surprise that we see, when Reform are in power locally, that this follows a very similar trend. It's when they're in power that these decisions that are being made, and it's about, when they talk about driving cost savings, what they really mean is reducing services and cutting services, and they don't factor in the important human costs that my colleagues and fellow councillors have raised just now. So I support this motion, and also what I really want to do is get the support of other councillors from across different parties to make sure that we really drive what we want in a society, which is that caring, empathetic society, and not a race to the bottom. So I support the motion and encourage others to do so.
Thank you, Councillor Towers. Questions or comments? Vote. Why do I keep switching this off? All those for? Against? Abstentions? Excellent. Although I shouldn't say that, I'm neutral. Thank you. We move to the second notice of motion, and that is to be proposed by Councillor Craig Southern.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I chose to look it up now before. Go on. Yes, this motion is to scrap. But no, it's not. So the motion I'm proposing, ladies and gentlemen, is based around planning. As many of you will be aware, if anybody tunes into the Craig and Alan show on a Tuesday, you'll be aware of the contentious issues which present themselves at planning on a weekly basis, largely around planning and principles, which everybody thinks is a new thing. It's not. It actually came out in 2017. And the idea was to encourage building in areas which hitherto might have been classed as unsuitable, i.e. is it in Greenbelt. And the scenario that it's thrown up and linked largely to the back of our inability at Chorley to demonstrate our 5-year supply, the tilted balance, as you'll have heard people saying, it's thrown up a scenario where speculative developments and speculative applications are coming in thick and fast. And this presents us with a problem in as much that we have two roles at planning. We have a role as committee members to listen to what the planning officer is telling us in terms of what we should be listening to and how that affects us. But we also have a role as borough councillors who represent our residents. And as Alan and myself will tell you, we represent, as many of you do, rural areas. And this isn't just in our particular patch of Chorley Rural West. This is right across Lancashire. This is actually right across the whole country. And the problem being that, particularly here in Lancashire, the government asked us to produce a local plan, which we spent a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of head scratching to produce, which we've then submitted to central government to approve. This part of that local plan in there was our demonstration as a council, what our 5-year housing supply was going forwards. You would think, having done that, that kind of boxes it off, because we can demonstrate this is where we can build, this is our supply of land. No. What happened was we had a change of regulation of the National Planning and Policy Framework, and what it effectively said was, what you thought was greenbelt is now greybelt. And there was an awful lot of head scratching, even from the planning officers who will tell you, they'll testament to this, we're not quite sure, Councillor Sutherland, because the way we've always been taught to address greenbelt is it's the field, it's open, it stops sprawl, it's the end of the settlement area, it's greenbelt, and that's why we're doing building it. No, along comes a new set of rules, which we've got to then learn, effectively takes everything we've known for all these years about greenbelt and turns it on its head. And the problem that we've got is, every single piece of green grass, not every single piece, but the majority of green belt that we have around our areas suddenly has become wide open to speculative applications from developers, landowners, et al. Do I blame that for doing that? Not entirely, no. It's a chink in our armour because we can't demonstrate a 5-year supply, and they're seeing an opportunity there. Yeah, even if I don't build on that, I'll put an application in there, I might get planning permission on that. The problem that we've got with that is, particularly in our rural areas, is that villages are villages for a reason, because they're not towns. Yeah? And we live there for the same reason. We don't want to be in a town. We want to be in a village. And the problem that we've got is, and I'm not, by the way, opposed to housing development, we need houses. We know that. It's how they've gone about it in the gracious manner that they've taken in doing that. What effectively is coming along is they're saying, right, well, we're going to have that bit of land there, we're going to put an application in, we're going to stick it to the council, see what they say, and if you don't like it, we'll appeal it and we'll win. When this first came through, there was 3 pieces of land in my patch which I looked at and said, well, it's greenbelt. And officers were saying, well, it's a bit of a head scratch, Councillor Sutherland, because we don't know if it's green or grey. We've got different opinions on it. I appealed the description of greybelt, and it went to appeal and we lost. And that effectively set the treadmill going for every single application. And I said at the time, and my colleagues from council, from planning committee will bear this out, this will be the start of it. It'll start here, it'll just carry on going, and that's exactly what's happened. To exacerbate that, and the small developments which we were talking, which were 9 houses and under, we've now got a scenario where we've got major applications coming in for 60, 80, 100 houses on land that is not in our local plan, which kind of makes a mockery of why do we do it in the first place. We've told you what we can put in our villages. I kicked at the time. I've ended up with 110 houses in my ward in Maudsley. And the problem that's created is it's pitting residents and it's creating unrest. And again, I come back to the point that irrespective of our duties at committee, our first and foremost duty is to our residents. And what residents are saying to us, this isn't right. And it's going to get to a scenario where this is going to explode. There's going to be a major kick-off because we are changing the way our rural villages work in an uncontrolled manner. So what I've done with this proposition is ask that 3 items that I put on there that we actually write to government and say to them, look, we've got a local plan, you've got it down there, you're looking at it. We've told you what our 5-year supply is, but could you possibly put a moratorium in place to stop these speculative developments coming through, because it's creating no end of bother. And it makes it really, really difficult at planning. And again, anybody who tuned in on Tuesday will have seen the furore that went on, because we have different opinions. And we're all looking in the same direction. Whilst Councillor Whittaker and I may seem to disagree, we still go in the same direction. We are still for our residents. The problem we've got is with that is that I did actually mention you in the splashes, Alan. It was a nice thing I said about you, though.
You voted for it. You voted for two at the last planning committee.
I did, Alan.
So it's a bit hypocritical.
Excuse me,
It's not
can
hypocritical.
we not have this
no,
discussion?
No, Alan. We're not going down that route, Alan. We're not going down that route.
Through the chair, please.
We're not through the chair. If you want to speak, Alan, by all means get up and say your bit, but don't talk over the top of me. It's rude.
Hypocrite.
No, rude. So, what I would like to do is to propose that we ask government, could they change the wording in the National Policy Framework that takes out the word other, so that this loophole that's been created by the back door that allows people to come in and make speculative developments for planning in principle ceases to be. Because at the moment, I sit there scratching my head saying, well, it's Greenbelt, and this is the problem we've got. And on the major development side, where people are coming in and proposing 60, 80, 100 houses into an area that is not in our local plan, that we put the time and motion into, that also needs to be checked. I'm asking for a moratorium. So that basically, ladies and gentlemen, is my proposal, that we ask government, we've got our local planning, we've done as you've asked us, please respect that. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I ask Councillor Alan Platt to second that motion, can I just remind members that you have the opportunity to ask questions or make comments, and I'd prefer it if you did it at the right time after the proposal has been made. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And I trust Councillor Bradley will forgive me for pinching half of his script from the last notice of motion at the previous meeting, particularly regarding our beautiful countryside. Plagiarism. I'm not going to go through everything that Councillor Southern has already gone through. It is just purely the ludicrousness of putting in words and stroke or any other land. It's, I mean, I know a few months ago I was at a planning committee meeting speaking against one, and I happened to mention to a consultant that basically you've solved Chorley's housing land problem because you can build on every field from the Exton Mill through to the Rufford boundary. I was laughed at and said, oh no, that won't happen because it wouldn't be sustainable. We're getting developments in now that are not sustainable, but they're still having to go through. And to quote, well, to finish with, to quote a line from the Mayor's previous tenure on planning committee, our hands are tied. What can we do? And it really needs addressing. And it is just those words, and or any other land, which is causing the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, there is an amendment proposed by Councillor Bradley, so you care to speak on that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. And I do agree that Chorley Council work very well together, and that would have been quite good if members opposite had asked me the question of what we were doing about this before they put the notice of motion in, because we have been doing something about this. We've been looking at this problem for a number of weeks and months because, as you're quite right, it has become a bigger issue. And the bigger issue is the definition, the and/or, etc., the footnote to Regulation 22 in that footnote comment is not helpful to Chorley one little bit at this point in time. But just as a bit of context of history, Councillor Southern, I don't know if you've been involved in this all the way through, but we have sat down, myself, Councillor Wilson, the MP, and others, with ministers over many years to say, how can Chorley get away from this crazy algorithm where the more you build, the more you have to build, no matter how much land supply you've got. And coming to the end of the plan, we haven't got land supply because it's all been used up. We cannot control phasing of housing supply. So therefore, we're in an invidious situation where we can't sort our own problems out. We've appealed to numerous ministers to be allowed to have an exemption. They said, no, what you've got to do is go away and get your local plan developed as quickly as possible. Going right back to the start of this meeting when Councillor Wilson mentioned it, that's what we have been doing as quickly as possible. So quick that the inspection starts in about 2 weeks' time in the first bit, and then straight after Christmas the other bit. But there is a loophole, and developers are exploiting that loophole. So we had already written to government, and the letters were going out anyway. Your notice of motion landed, I think, on Thursday. The letters were due to go out at the end of the week anyway because they were being drafted. And they were being drafted probably several times because I would like to be a lot stronger, perhaps than officers would, because I'll have the nuances and, you know, and we've got to also work with ministers to give us a dispensation, to allow Chorley to get its local plan in place without seeing Greenbelt that is Greenbelt in the current plan, is Greenbelt in the forthcoming plan for the sake of a few months not being Greenbelt. That is a nonsense. That is a ridiculous situation, and we don't support that one little bit. So I wouldn't say I welcome your notice of motion. I did say why have you not picked the phone up? But despite that, I'm happy to embrace the notice of motion. We've amended it to add some of the stuff on that we were saying anyway. You've seen the letters that we wrote both to the Minister and the Secretary of State for Planning and Housing, Mr Pennycook, and we've also, which I've circulated earlier this evening, have you not seen those letters? Were they not sent out to all councillors earlier? Apologies. So, I can believe you, Deborah, I don't believe the rest of them. Certainly not you, Councillor Riggott. Yeah, we all have a 3-second job, Councillor Riggott. So we sent the letters out at the end of last week. They were going out anyway. We've already opened discussions with our MPs, particularly Paul Foster, who his constituency is more affected probably than Sir Lindsay, to get something in the diary to get this sorted out. They are alarmed by it as well. And as you're dead right, we're seeing a floodgate come through because the minute 1 or 2 go through, and I watch with interest the appeals that went on at Inns Walton, etc., we have a risk. We will try and close that risk down for the very good grounds, and despite what you and Councillor Whittaker were just demonstrating, you do actually agree at that meeting the other night. You agreed. You came to a different conclusion, but you always will. You are a rule follower. Councillor Whittaker is a natural rebel. It's a polite way of saying it. But, therefore, Mr Mayor, what I'd like to recommend is that we embrace the amendment that we have put forward, which takes the spirit of your notice of motion and reinforces it with the facts of our current administration's proposals, and hopefully we can embrace those things. The letters demonstrate this council takes this very seriously, and we will do everything we can to prevent our green belt being eroded in a piecemeal fashion over the next few months. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Hilton, I believe you're seconding.
Yeah, thank you,
amendment?
Mr Mayor. I would like to second the proposal for the amendment to the notice of motion. Just a couple of things I picked up on. The original notice of motion mentioned rural areas only, but this does affect the whole of Chorley. I think every resident in Chorley will be really cross that their green belt is being eroded. We're all as frustrated as everyone else, so I think we've just made some amendments to reflect that. We have been engaging with ministers about this for a long time. You know, we've been engaging when we were on the naughty step, etc. as well. And it's really frustrating that the fact in the local plan we delivered a lot of our homes early. That's been shown in the housing delivery test, which is coming to Cabinet shortly. And we've been almost the victims of our own success. So the more we build, the more we have to build, and that is grossly unfair. So that's why we're in the situation with the 5-year land supply, because we built a lot early, and it is really frustrating. It is the way it is. It really does need to be changed. The housing delivery test, we have to have an action plan, and that action plan is the local plan, and we need to get that through as soon as possible. Like Councillor Bradley said, it's Greenbelt in this local plan, it's going to be Greenbelt in the next local plan, so what's the difference there? And you're absolutely right, Councillor, so that it's about people trying to exploit a loophole to try and build on land that they want to try and possibly be trying to for years. And it is really frustrating for our residents. So I fully support everything that you've said, and I support what Councillor Bradley has said here. So I'm quite happy to second the amendment we're quite happy to work with the government, work with the planning inspector to actually make sure this is what works for our residents. So for that reason, yes, I would like to support the amendment to the notice of motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. I'll take any questions or comments, first of all, on the amendment. Councillor Alan Platt.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I don't think we can argue with it, especially as Councillor Bradley's taken out his words from the previous notice of motion. I mean, I've tried to read and inwardly digest as best I can. I am at a disadvantage because it's in red, and I just don't do red full stop in any circumstances.
No blue on there? There's blue, no, there's no blue either. Never mind.
I mean, it is what it is. You know, I must beg your forgiveness. I wasn't aware that we had to consult with the leader before we submitted a notice of motion. But perhaps if we'd have been informed prior, we might not have done so. But it's the gist of what we wanted anyway. So thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Councillor Southern, I will go to the vote for the amendment unless you wish to accept the amendment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I'm happy to accept the amendment as proposed by Councillor Bradley and seconded by Councillor Hilton. As everybody knows, Councillor and I work very collegially at planning. We try to stick with the rules where we've got them. We try to steer as best we can. But it is creating tension. So on that basis there, I'm happy to proceed with that, Mr Mayor, if we can take that amendment on board. Thank you.
Thank you. In that case, that becomes the substantial motion. Yes. I thought you were shaking your head again, Councillor Wilson. I thought I'd done it wrong again. Right, we'll go to the vote on the substantive motion. You know, I used to be able to say that quite easily. As amended, all written in red. Unless you're colourblind, we'll have it changed to different colours next time. Right, we'll go to the vote. All those for, please show. Against? Abstentions? Thank you. That is passed. And the last item, item 9, any urgent business previously agreed with the Mayor. Page 291 to 94, urgent item supplement. I have accepted this urgent item of business on the basis that it's considered that its consideration could not be postponed until the next scheduled meeting of the Council. And this item is for decision. Councillor Bradley, could you present this item, please?
Yes, Mr Mayor. This is an application on behalf of Councillor Top to extend the fact that he hasn't attended meetings for the 6-month period to another 3 months due to ill health. Unfortunately, he has no colleagues on this council, so let's put it forward. That's why I'm doing it, and I'm hoping that Councillor Platt will second that. I think it's the right thing to do. We are a month before Christmas. I do not think disbarring somebody at this point in the year is really on, particularly when they are ill, and therefore I'm more than happy to recommend that Councillor Top is given an extension like we have done for other councillors previously in his situation. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Second.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I think it's time for compassion. Much as I never thought I'd be seconding a proposal from Councillor Bradley, I'm quite happy to do so.
Thank you very much. I'm sure it's the right thing to do. We'll go to the vote. All those for? Against? Abstentions? Thank you. There's no further business. And it does seem ridiculously early to, as this is the last council of this year. Christmas lights switch on. Oh, it's Christmas, yes. So, if I don't see you again, which I will, a very Merry Christmas.
No, coming back after Christmas.
And I'll see you at the next meeting in January. But just a reminder for those who've been invited along to the parlour, give me at least 10 minutes to get out of this. I can't decide whether it's the heat in here or if it's my cold, but it's getting rather warm in this, so give me 10 minutes to get out of it. Thank you very much.